number 1, number 3. Grass River, 3 R's. Grass River Railroad, why they didn't do G?
this. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to rumble?
All right, you're hot.
Hey, welcome to Model Railroading Live. Tonight's show, who is Big Bill talking to? Welcome to the #1 model railroading show in the world, folks. We're broadcasting live from New York City, the greatest city in the world. Well, actually from Staten Island, New York, one of the 5 boroughs. Anyway, we want to welcome you to the show tonight. Who's Big Bill talking to? But before I get to introduce my special guest tonight, just want to remind you guys that tomorrow night on today is January 8th, 2020. 2020 already. Can you imagine that, John? It's already. Time flies when we're having fun here in model railroading. Anyway, I know that we promised you guys, and it's an ongoing thing, and I'll get to the information. I know that we promised you guys the space station thing where they're going to change out the DCC decoder on a Z scale up in the space station, but the guy Smitty, who we've been working with, I don't know what's going on with him. So right now, that's on the back burner. We're trying to get what's his name? Who's that guy? That famous model railroader, John? Rod Stewart. But he just got into a jam over the holiday season, so I don't know. That's up in the air. We got so many guys on the loop here. The space station, Rod Stewart. We just don't know what to do with our time here. But anyway, tomorrow on the 9th of January, that would be tomorrow night, Thursday, we will have at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Johnny's Train Talk Show, where you guys can come in and be a part of it, like we are right now. You can pull up a chair, sit down, bring and brag anything that you got that you want to show off to the community, or if you have a problem, a situation, and you need help with, or and you can help. This is the place to be, Johnny's Train Talk Show. So mosey on down to the general store and pull up a chair and get involved in Johnny's Train Talk Show. That's tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, the 9th of January. And on the 14th of January, we're going to have the Build Show. Build. B-U-I-L-D. Build. I had to spell that out for myself because me and John went to 2 different schools together, so we have a hard time understanding each other. Anyway, that's where we're at with that. On January 14th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll have the Build Show with, we'll have it with Andy, John? Yes, Andy Crawford will be hosting that show and bringing his expertise to that show. So without further ado, who is Big Bill talking to tonight on January 8th, 2020? I want to introduce you to Fred Evans. Fred has a YouTube channel called Fred E. Model Railroading. It's a play on words. Fred, the letter E, Model Railroading. And how I happened to come upon Fred was I was perusing YouTube channels, and I wasn't looking at cat and dog videos or police things or anything like that. I actually was looking at model railroading, and I came across Fred E. And I thought it was pretty. It was about model railroading, but what was I thought, which was pretty cool about his video, was that it's a 4x8. That's what it is. It's a 4x8, and for most of us, we get started on 4x8, and then we graduate to humongous, overly stated railroads. But without further ado, let me introduce you to Fred. Fred, good evening and welcome to Who's Big Bill Talking To. How are you tonight, first and foremost?
I'm good, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So, just give us a little background on your YouTube channel. First, how long have you been doing this YouTube channel?
I started it mid-January a year ago, and that's where I learned about model railroading, was on YouTube. And so I thought, yeah, I could maybe set up a channel, and I don't know if I'm adding any value, but I'm having fun showing off, I guess.
Well, I absolutely, I think you're adding value. You caught my attention, and I have to say, if Wilmer is out there watching, if he tunes in, I just want to say that Wilmer has a channel, Indian Valley River channel, where he goes out and he peruses all the YouTube model channels, and he try to kind of fill me in of who's hot, who's not, who's working, who's doing this. So I have to say that I one-upped him on this right here. I discovered you. So if you make like $1 million, I get some of that. Okay.
Well, yeah, Bill, let me just kind of give you a little update. I was in episode 59. For Wilbur gave me a shout out.
All right. Thanks for that, Fred. Take care. We'll see you. Oh, look at it.
I think my subscriber count went up, 10 or 20 watchers.
Drats. My arch nemesis beat me again.
But I will say that you have a better show.
Don't say that. Do not say that. Everybody, keep the emails down. Don't let anybody write to us, and nobody harass Fred on his channel at all, okay? But Fred, you definitely have a 4x8 layout. Now, you said that you started in January, and
that was a YouTube. That was a YouTube channel, Bill, and it was done then. And
okay. Beg my pardon on that. That was your channel, correct? So, how long have you been doing model railroading?
Well, like a lot of guys my age, I got a small circular HO layout, maybe in the 4th grade, 5th grade. And we were in a rental house, and so we didn't really have any place to set it up except on the wood floor. And so over a couple of years, I just added a few pieces. Really didn't do a whole lot with it. Kind of outgrew it. So it went in a box, and when my dad passed away, I found that box in his attic. So I didn't really want to throw it away, and my son was only 4 at the time, so I kept it, and it moved around the country with me 4 times, and I retired in 2015. Bought the house I'm in, spent 2 years working on the house, and then I was out of work, so I got out the model railroad box and started working on that. That was in, I think, I got some notes here. It was in the spring of 2017. And it's kind of, I don't know when you're going to show those pictures, but the very first picture, it looks pretty pathetic, but I just kept working on it over the next 2 years.
Can we bring that picture up, John? You got to give John a second. One of the hamsters quit. There we go.
Yeah, cycle through those. Let's see, it was in the first set I sent, because I'm on my second 4x8 now. That's the second one. Keep going. There it is. yeah, that's how I started. And the original idea was I wanted to be able to fold up in case I got a second car. So I put it on hinges, and then those legs in the middle were designed to, if you lift the table up, the legs fold up.
Okay, so you put it on a tripod, well, basically like a three-legged.
Yeah, yeah. Well, not being an engineer or anything, I realized pretty quickly that if you press on the corners, the thing dips up, and so I also realized, Bill, and this will be a pretty big shock to people, is you can't reach across a 4-foot board.
But you know what? Everybody who's in model railroading has been there and done that, and
Yeah.
has a T-shirt.
I found myself crawling on top of the damn thing to fix the derailments and stuff like that. And so those are a couple of things that I had to fix as I moved forward. But that little train right in the middle is that little black locomotive is the original locomotive that's 60 years old. It's a Husky, I think.
How old did you say?
Huh?
How old did you say that train?
I think it's called a Husky, the locomotive. It's a Rock Island brand. But what's interesting about it is it has a missile. Right behind it is a missile that you can load and then press a lever and it'll shoot the missile. And it has an exploding box car.
Yes, I remember those as a kid. Yes.
Yeah, so the big draw on that one is to try and hit the box car and make it explode.
Right.
And so that that's when you can only go in a circle. You got to have something added to that to make it interesting.
Now this was the original 4x8. Now you resurrected this. This was done in your garage.
Yeah, this is in my garage. I have a 2-car garage here in San Antonio, and I thought at some point I might have 2 cars, so I wanted some flexibility. But the railroad became more important than having a second car.
Priority, Fred. Priority.
No.
Well, I can see this decision. Let's see. New car, model railroading. Let's get to model railroading.
Yeah. So anyway, if you want to flip to another picture, I don't know which one is the next one. I got my grandkids in there.
Oh, God bless them. Look at them. They're having a good time.
And I have gone ahead and put some cork road bed down. I mean, I spent months trying to decide on a layout. I looked at every YouTube and every Pinterest image, and so I just kept messing with it, and I needed 2 controllers because I didn't want to fight over it. So the 2 tracks, I mean, I had all kinds of shut-off switches and stuff like that, but all I want to do is race them around. And
well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I don't let them play with it anymore now that I'm on DCC.
Yes, now that we've graduated, it's
Yeah, I don't want my grandson burning it out.
Yeah.
So you can go to the next picture.
Eric,
this is where I spread out the legs.
Okay, so let's just take this one step at a time here. So now we've kind of learned from our tripod mistake.
Yeah.
And it seems that we've put the 4 legs with bracing on it.
Yeah.
Put stability on it. We also kind of realized that we put a bit of a higher fascia around it so that we don't have trains falling off it. And it also seems as though the 2 controllers have kind of like got cleaned up a bit.
Oh yeah, I spent some time, making it look nice and trying to make it logical the way the switches are organized. I think I've got 21 switches on this thing. And some of them work together. You know, when you go to A track from A to B track, it switches two of them.
Fred, if I just may interrupt you for a minute, I believe your son Richard is listening to this show, and he he says, "Careful, Papa, they are listening." We can cut that out on the replay.
Okay.
We'll cut that out on the replay.
Hey, Andy. Hey, Allie.
And what's your grandchildren's name?
Allie is 10 and Andy is 6.
Hey, well, Allie and Andy, welcome to Model Railroading Live. We have your grandfather on, and he's having a great time. And we just want to say hello to you, and I hope you enjoy watching. And hello to Cloverdale Rail and out there. And they are waving and saying hello back to you, Fred. And Eric Hall, John wants you to know that he has just woken up. He's awake and moving around behind the scenes there. So getting back to this picture here, we see that everything is basically now kind of like you kind of like getting it together. Now it seems like, okay, I put it together, I did it, now I want to clean it up. And it looks like this is exactly what you've done.
Yep. And then I realized to get it away from the wall, I had to move one end out a little ways, run around to the other end and pull it out. And so I finally put some wheels on it so I could move it back and forth easier.
Okay.
And let's go to another picture here, Johnny. Yeah, this is the how it looks. And I've got
presently.
Pardon me?
This is how it presently looks.
This is the way the track layout is before I started landscaping and building buildings.
Right.
And so I've got several sidings, and that little piece of paper is a model I built. The first one I built didn't end up on the layout till the second layout, but so I would look on YouTube and look on Walthers and try to figure out what buildings I wanted. And go to the next one, Johnny, see what we're looking at. Yeah, go back to the first ones maybe. Yeah, this will be a little, this will be, you can see my scenery over there on the left. And I got carried away buying buildings. And you can see the second layout down at the end that I'm working on now. I'm kind of like dandelions, Bill. I'm just sprouting up videos all over YouTube. You can't, I don't think you can search 4x8 HO layout without hitting me. So I'm not monetized, so it's okay.
No. I think that would, I think that the attraction to this, Fred, and is that, when I ran across your video and I saw your 4x8, I was a little intrigued by it because I was like, well, here's something, different. And I didn't know your experience in model railroad. I didn't know if it was like you were just coming back into the hobby. I didn't know if you were new to the hobby. I didn't know what your level of expertise was. So when I saw the 4x8, and then I saw, this is what I've been watching. I didn't see go back to any of your early ones. And this is what got me, because I saw for what, you did in the amount of space that you designed and what you've done. You got a lot of railroad in there,
Yeah, I was, that was one of my goals, is to get as much track and as many buildings on it as I could. And I have a history slideshow out in my YouTube channel. Under the playlist, there's one called History of the Layout. And I've taken photographs through the whole process. And I've put those out there. And then when I started my expansion, I'm actually documenting the stuff I'm doing. I might be wearing out some of my subscribers with all of my updates, but some people like them, maybe.
I think they do. I believe they do. Eric Hall, IMRO.com says David Pop puts wheel on all the model railroading project layouts. Good move for some of the smaller and mid-size layouts. This is true. Fred, let me ask you a question. What was the motivation to do the second 4x8 because of the first one?
Yeah, and basically I ran out of work on the first one, and I had built in some switches on the ends, thinking maybe someday I would expand it. So I had the capability to expand it further when I built it, and after going months without doing anything, I asked my wife if she cared if I took out the cabinet and built another one. And she said, "Yeah, do what you want." So that was the flag to start another one. And I went to Home Depot, and this is all in my videos. I'm chronicling the whole trip here.
Well,
But it's all freelance. I just start laying out track and playing with ideas, and get on eBay and find a deal on a building and think, yeah, I could use that somewhere. And so not only is it model railroading, but kind of got hooked on eBay, and I don't know what I'm going to do when I get done with this one. Pick up my eBay addiction.
Michael Lambertino wants to know. Hello, Mike. Wants to know, do the two layouts connect?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have them bolted together, and I've got caster wheels on all the legs, so I can push it around. Like right now in this picture, it's pushed away from the wall. You can see my hinges there in the first part of it. I don't use those anymore now that I got too much weight on it and stuff. And I'm only going to have one car, and it fits in fine once I push it over. But, yeah, they're connected. I've got them bolted together, and I got the wiring connected. But I could disconnect the wiring. It's got a connector between the two tables. But all the power comes out of that original board there you saw. I just have a DCC controller from MRC instead of two DC power packs.
Right. Adrian Gaston says, I've been watching these upload videos Fred has been putting up. And Eric Hall says, IMRRO.com says, so he has axed the second car. Now he has no room for the 24-foot RV trailer. Nope. William A. Fred has really good videos, fun to watch as well. Let's see. Yeah. Here's the. Okay, so you're doing it with MRC, right? Is the DCC?
Yeah, that's when I went down to my local hobby store and I started talking to him about changing from DC to DCC. He recommended Digitrax, and I wanted to, maybe have my grandkids use it. So then he was talking about another add-on controller, and it's like, geez, I was going to have $400 in this DCC system, and I thought, yeah, I'm not going to spend that kind of money.
Right.
So I just, kept watching eBay, and was lucky enough to buy my little MRC for under $100, and I bought the Wi-Fi at the same time. So I bought their Wi-Fi gizmo and then use Y-Throttle, so I can have very cheap secondary controllers.
Right. That's true. Very true.
Yeah,
Well,
that's from a financial standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. Plus, I got a hell of a deal on eBay, which
Sure.
even made it better.
what kind of track and switches are you using?
I'm using I'm using some of my old brass track that's 60 years old, and it's all Atlas Code 100. And on my layout, I'm using number 4 Atlas switches because that's kind of what I had. And I bought a bunch of used ones on eBay. And the problem with those I found is that on the newer locomotives, the 6-wheel locomotives, they don't run so good on those number 4 switches. And so on my new layout, I was using number 6 switches. Well, my curves are, too tight for the big locomotives. They keep derailing the car, losing the cars on the curve. So I've given up on 6-wheel trucks and stay with my GPs and my switchers.
Right.
So I got about 3 locomotives to dispose of on eBay. I've never sold anything.
So your curves are what, 18 inches?
Well, the roughly 22. It takes up the outside one takes up the full 4 feet. So they're about 22, and then they're 20-ish, and then 17 and a half, 18 on the inside.
Right.
Yeah, but it's that even on a 22-inch curve, it starts to curve right after a switch, and I got some Atherns that just don't like that at all.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have more track and switches than big locomotives, so I'll stick with my smaller ones.
Do you have, Michael Lambertini wants to know, are you using a caulk road bed?
Yes.
Yes. The thing I'd like to know is, just out of curiosity, and looking at this picture, this photo here, and I'm watching in behind the aisle with the buildings that you've set up and laid a track there. If you wanted to build the second one, may I ask why didn't you, before you did that on, like, build a shelf layout and make it a little bit more, get more in depth with the with the hobby itself? Why did you opt to go with a second 4x8 and basically replicate the first one, or a little bit different? But you know what I'm trying to say here, right?
I think so. Well, that shelf you're looking at was really designed to support folding up the table. And then I just stuck for visual purposes that track on there, you can't get to it, and the buildings. And so when I had this thing folded up one time, and I'd take all the buildings off, and so I didn't really have room to go wider and be able to get my car in.
I understand.
Yeah, so that's why I went longer, and that's kind of why it's long and still 4 foot wide.
Is it?
Yeah, that's just painted. Well, oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, John said that that small shelf acts as a backdrop, so that if you're looking at it from looking at Fred now, we can see the backdrop. It seems like one continuation.
Yeah, I had one comment where the person said that looks bigger than a 4 foot layout. Well, and it does, because there's another 8 inches or so in those buildings.
Right. No, and what is design? What is your track design for the second 4x8? Is it gonna be a replica of the first, or are you gonna try to do something a little bit?
No, go to one of those pictures where I've got the track layout on JMRI, Johnny. There it is. Yeah, this is what the second layout looks like. And I spent a lot of years in the IT field. Started as a programmer, and that's one of the things that when I converted to DCC, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Then I started reading about on videos the JMRI stuff. So I thought, yeah, I gotta get into that. So this is the panel. I think it's called panel layout or something like that. I may have the name wrong. But what it does is on the right, the west side, those track A is what connects to the original layout. So you can go, clear around the layout on the track A. And track B is kind of a siding, and you can drop onto B. And B really gets you into C, which is all my industries are on the inside next to C.
Right.
Well, that's not really quite true. I have some sidings, but one of the things about my original layout is you had to back into all the buildings. Everything was on the inside on a siding. So on this one, I tried to put some stuff that the trains could run by instead
Right.
of having to back into.
Right.
And so that's kind of what part of my thinking on the second layout here.
Just before you go, Fred, Richard, your son, says, we're dropping off here. It's bedtime for the little train engineers. This was a blast, and Papa is famous. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. That and $1 might buy you a donut at Dunkin' Donuts. Well, you get a senior, only if you get the senior discount.
Yes, absolutely. So this second track plan, everything is designed more for. Are you going to try to do operations with this second one a little bit anyway?
Oh, maybe a little bit. What I have in mind is I started some JMRI scripting, and my long-term goal is to be able to run my trains automatically under script control. Now, I don't know that I'll ever get into the train detection and the signals and all that really complicated stuff. But I'll be happy if I can execute programs and have them go, say, from the co-op over to my mill, Continental Mill.
Right.
And one of the problems I'm having now is I can't figure out how to run two trains out of the same program. And I'm also having a problem with my DigiKeys interface to my snap switches. They'll work on my MRC, but they won't work under JMRI, and I don't understand that.
Mm.
I haven't had time to mess with it.
Yeah.
Pardon me, Johnny? No, you can with this DigiKeys product out of Denmark, I think it is. You can tell it start. It'll hold 8 snap switches, and you can tell it where to start, like 10. So you get 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. They work great on my handheld MRC, but they just won't work right under the JMRI.
Well, Eric Call says, IMRRO.com says, your plan looks like Star Trek space shuttle.
Yeah.
He goes to say, warp drive, fire the proton torpedoes.
Yeah.
Michael Lambertino wants to know, have you considered putting a 4x8 sheet of pink 2-inch foam on top of the plywood so that you could cut into it for a lake or add a bridge?
Yeah, when I bought my layout, and I got my 1-inch foam from Home Depot, and at the time I didn't see 2-inch foam, and I don't have a lot of patience, so I just took the 1-inch and said I can go with that. I did buy some of that Woodland Scenics water, And so I'm gonna, somewhere on my layout, I'm gonna dig a little pond and put some of that stuff in. But I wanted buildings and tracks and stuff like that. And if I was to do it over again, I might put some elevation in and a bridge or two. But at the time, I just wasn't that sophisticated.
Right. Well, I think like with everything else, you wanted to put you wanted to put the track down. You wanted to get it going, and hindsight is 20/20. Obviously,
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like
I'm
that.
just happy I was able to get some ballasting down without ruining my track.
Let me now just to recap who's come in late. You've been on YouTube now doing chronicling your video. By the way, anybody who wants to go check Fred's YouTube, it's Fred E, the letter E, Model Railroading on YouTube, and you can see all his videos. So you started doing that in mid-January of last year, but you've had the trains for quite a number of years, and they've moved around with you. And
yeah, they were my original train. Was I got when I was 8 or 9. It doesn't run anymore. I took that little train down to the local hobby store, and he said, "Nah, it's shot."
Yeah.
But I do have some Atherns, some old Atherns that are 35 years old that he cleaned up, and they run just fine on DC. And I'm not going to convert them to DCC. They're not worth it. I just bought some new DCC ones.
Now, okay. So now you've done this, and now you've used some. I heard you mention that you used some of your brass track on the.
Yeah.
How is that working out for you?
It's not bad.
That's a virtual no-no in the model railroading community.
Oh yeah, I've gotten feedback from people on that, but I just have one of those bright boy things, and when it stops, I go over and clean the track. And if it's still running, I don't have to clean it. And when it stalls, I clean it.
There you go.
Just in time maintenance, Bill.
That,
when it breaks, I fix it.
That's it.
But all the new stuff is the a lot of flex track and all the new switches or the newer I don't know what they are, some kind of metal. They're not brass. No, it really is not bad. I've been pleasantly surprised, even in my garage. And I'll leave the door open in nice weather, and I get dust and stuff on top of it, and I'll just blow it off or vacuum it off. I've been so busy building stuff that I haven't run the trains all that
much. That does happen. You get into these moments where your projects overcome your model railroading, running of trains, and you look up from your project and you go, wait a minute, why do I have all this track here? Am I building, or am I supposed to be running trains? And then you that little break and get back into running the railroad a little bit.
Well, and it's always, it don't matter how good I try to lay my track, something happens. I got some new used Atlas grain cars last week on eBay, of course, and they had the hook horns. So I put on new Cadies, and I'm all excited, and I'm trying to run my grain train around, and it crashes over on the far side of my layout because the Cadies are a little thinner than the hooks, and so they hung down just a little further, and it caught the wire that sticks up through the board on the tortoise type switch. So now I'm thinking, it's always something, it's just always something.
Welcome to model railroading 101.
I got them laying sideways on the board, and I went back to glue and plastic.
I have to tell you that when I first was involved before YouTube, and then when YouTube came along, I remember watching remember watching all these videos on these modelers, and I would watch their trains, you know, go flawlessly over their layouts, and I'd be, how come mine doesn't do that? You know, back and I'd look at, you know, and obviously they were things that were hung up, or the track wasn't laid right, or whatever it was that I was doing. But I remember the first time that my present layout here, when the train made it from point to point,
Yeah.
literally, like I said to my wife, let's go to Burger King and celebrate. It's
Okay.
like,
For my
yeah.
viewers, I'll give you a little tip. Most of the time, I never run across a switch on a YouTube channel. Sometimes I do, but if you ever see a break in the video, it's like, wait a minute, that train was not quite there. That's because it derailed, and I put it back on the rail and started again.
Very true. Nearly Historical Railroad has just entered the house, everybody. Good evening, all. That's Don G. Fred, I would suggest, if you really want to look and get a tutorial on running a railroad, I would suggest that you subscribe to the Nearly Historical Railroad. Don G, his father, his friend Jerry, and my main man, Scott, who is I think that you should get t-shirts, Don, with Scott's face on it, and you should subscribe. Everybody should subscribe to the Nearly Historical Railroad. Uh, you know, because he has, you would be totally amazed, Fred, at his layout. I won't get into it and take time away from you, but he's been on our show, and I'm a big fan of Don G, his father, and Jerry and Scott, and all of those guys. Yes, I agree, Don. Scott is better looking than you, and that's why you should have him on a T-shirt. You'd sell millions of them. I'm telling you, millions of them. But you should check this guy. And you guys out there absolutely have to subscribe to the Nearly Historical Railroad. You'd really find it to be quite interesting.
You know, when I look at YouTube, it's just some of those layouts in the basements, particularly, are just fabulous. And guys have been doing that their whole life. I mean, I'm like, I started mine in the spring of 2017, and I'm just a peanut compared to some of those things. And I just look at those and think, yeah, I'm never going to be able to do that.
Oh, no. You know, we all started the same way, you know, Fred. Another video, another channel is and it's IMRRO.com. Eric Halls, he does an N scale. And he has an excellent YouTube channel where he explains things, laying track. He has an N scale laying track on the switches, how to adjust them, soldering. Ron Marsh, another one. You know, he's another YouTuber that has it, and everybody out there. But these guys, I would recommend because they are. You know, you can go to Sparky 107. Sparky's is in the process of building a shed and
yeah, he subscribes to me and will occasionally throw me a nice comment. And I'm watching how he's building that shed.
Right. So he just
wow, he's going to have something really nice. I tell you, I kind of look for other 4x8 layouts, and I want to give a shout out to a guy named William A. His William A is just the name of his channel, and he does fabulous detail and scenery. His is all switching, and you should interview him and he can show his layout for the
absolutely. We'll give him a heads up and stuff.
Yeah.
In Fred's YouTube channel, all you do see is Fred's hands. Fred is like Mr. Rogers. You just see the hands. He's just, and you hear the voice. And when I first sent an email out, I didn't know. You don't sound like you're from Texas, you know. So I was thinking Midwest to Northeast, and when you told me San Antonio, I was a little, a little surprised. But you see Fred's hands as he's working the trains and building. And he does a building the things that he bought from eBay. So that's pretty interesting, and it's pretty good. And I think that, the question I like to ask, what is the worst thing that you've come across that you don't really like to do in model railroad?
Soldering.
Okay. What is the best thing that you like to do?
I can't solder to save my life, Bill. And I've tried 2 different irons, and it's awful. It's just awful. I'm going to get some of that conductive glue and just glue everything together. But, the best thing is YouTube. I mean, all the people that do their educational videos, and I mean that's how I learned to ballast, just watching that, and that's how I learned about the cork road bed. I didn't know anything about that, and Flex Track. I mean, it's just guys out there just do great education, and that's the best thing about the hobby is you can learn so much. That when I had my layout in my basement when my son was 10, my daughter was 7. I couldn't figure out why the electronic stuff wasn't working or why the engine would stall. And today, it's like, yeah, okay, if you got brass track, you got to clean it, stupid. And have multiple connection points in your layout, not just one.
Right.
The best thing is YouTube, and people sharing what they're doing and how to do videos and stuff like that.
It is a pretty good informational and educational way to learn. I've learned how to, from watching my YouTube videos, I've watched how I could butcher a pig. It's never come in handy, but hey, God forbid but if I'm ever at a barbecue and someone says, hey, I have this pig I want to butcher, I'm your guy because I watched the video.
We have a problem in our neighborhood with feral hogs. Here in the western part of San Antonio, it used to be all just open ranch land. And there's like millions of feral hogs. So somebody builds a house and they don't have a fence around their yard. The feral hogs come in and tear up their sod.
See, I'm the guy for you.
Yeah, so the one guy that I was talking to said he knows he can't shoot a weapon in the city, but he says there's no ordinance against bow and arrows, and feral hogs are fair game all year long. You don't need a permit. So he says, I'm going to shoot one of them damn things, and we're going to have a barbecue.
I'm the guy. I'm your guy. I can butcher that pig because I've watched the YouTube video on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I go through it right now for you, but for some of those guys out there who are squeamish, they're eating their dinner right now. I don't want to, upset. That's
I think I'll stick to Bill Miller's barbecue.
Yeah. I go to Crazy Ed's barbecue out on Route 32 in New Jersey.
Texas has some great barbecue spots.
I heard rumors to that effect. The only thing, why people have always asked me, I retired, Bill, why don't you move out of New York City? And here's the reason why I don't move out of the greatest city in the world. And I truly say that with a humble heart. But this is the only city in the world where you can get a pastrami sandwich at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And get theater, sidewalk theater at the same time.
Yeah, I believe it. I was visited New York City last summer and went around. I wanted to see the 9/11 memorial because my wife and daughter and I were on top of the Twin Towers in December, the year before they got knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to see the memorial.
Okay. Yeah, it's a truly humbling sight to see. And anybody who goes to the 9/11 memorial, I always tell them, do not buy any souvenirs or any kind of memorabilia that they might be selling, hawking on the streets, because treat it as though it is a a gravesite, a memorial, and it is people still have not been found
Yeah.
in there. So and stuff like that. But if you ever get a chance to come back to New York, I'll definitely give you the 65-cent tour of
Mm.
it, and
Well,
really take in the flavor of the neighborhoods and stuff like that. And I'll also take you, which is a fine point. Big railroads used to come through this city, and we still have active railroads that work the piers in Brooklyn,
yeah.
that work daily, that we can see actual street running trains.
Yeah.
So
I do a few rail fanning videos up in Creston, Iowa, where my wife's family is from. And right downtown, they have a BNSF station where the workers change trains. And they run a lot, I think there's 40 trains a day go through Creston, mostly coal trains. And I got some real up close and personal videos of the big old BNSF AC 4400s, Max 70s, and where I'm standing right next to them, and they're starting up and they're going by me. There's some good stuff in there for anybody that's a BNSF fan.
yeah, there's a rail fan video of a guy who took in Kansas. I think it was Kansas. It was a red engine. He was on an overpass, and they were switching out, and he was videotaping them as they were switching out the diesel, and then he was standing on the overpass, and all of a sudden he was holding his camera, and his camera started to shake, and you heard this, and he panned down below him, and this big ass C70 came rumbling in. It was like this thing was so beat up, and the engine was so but it was like spewing black smoke. But it was literally, the guy said on the video, he says, "This bridge is vibrating.
Yeah, yeah.
You can feel this. This bridge is vibrating."
I got one that I'm standing next to this locomotive because there's a platform because they have an Amtrak station there. And I'm standing there, and I see the engineer's head stick out the window, and he looks at me, and he, says hi, and I said hi. And then he starts it up. So I got the whole start up, and then a couple of minutes later, the bell starts ringing, and I think, ooh, I better get back on the other side. I'm going to be trapped out here. And yeah, he leaves the station pulling a whole bunch of, I think they were container cars. And yeah, I got some, I think they're pretty nice videos. They're, like I say, up close and personal.
Yes, and dirty.
Yeah. Some of them are dirty, but by and large, they're not. They got the newer ones. They put the newer ones, I think, on the coal trains.
Well, the new ones, the newer trains, the newer diesels have scrubbers that are more environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
They burn cleaner and
Yeah.
stuff. I used to work for the Transit Authority, and we used to have diesels. They were subway diesels, smaller, squatter. They were supposed to have scrubbers on them when we went in through the tunnel through the stations, but they never really did a good job. And it would spew all this kind of fumes, diesel fumes, out onto the platform, and people would be. But that's New York City, so you live with that kind of stuff. But anyway, Cloverdale Rail, Marcel says that he had the 65-cent tour is totally awesome. When Marcel was here, we did the 65-cent tour, and he got the whole kit and caboodle and stuff like that. So, let's see. You on Naked 4 says they don't do that with the GE. You might get a fireball in your face. Very true. LOL.
I got a picture of a GE with the paint all burned off the side where it caught fire.
Yeah, those are the ones that I like to model. Those are the ones I like to replicate on my layout, because those are a lot more fun than the pristine ones that you see running on layouts, and they're like There's something wrong with that train. What's the matter? Oh, they're too clean. I can't
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, like I said, there's some newer ones out there they're nice, and then there's the older ones. There's even a green one I saw. It was a Mac 70 Mac, I think. It's labeled BNSF, but it wasn't the orange colors.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I got a couple of videos on the Vermont Railroad where my daughter lived in Bennington. They're moving.
Oh, are they living there now?
Pardon me?
They still live there now?
They're moving, but today they're still there in Bennington, North Bennington.
My brother lives in Bennington, Vermont.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My son-in-law used to be the Home Depot manager. He's got promoted, so they're moving to toward the Manchester area.
Oh, right. Yeah, they're right. Yeah, they're right over there. Chester. Yeah. What part of Bennington do they live in?
They were in North Bennington, up not too far from the train station, actually.
Oh, I know exactly where that is. I know exactly where the restaurant is.
Yeah, there's a restaurant just south of the train station. Yeah.
Right. That's correct. That is correct. Wow, look at that small world.
It sure is.
My brother used to live, if you're familiar with Bennington, there's the Sunoco station in town, the old, what is that? The car guy, the car.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I can't think of it either right now.
Right. Well, my brother owned the two houses next to it, and that guy bought my brother out. And then my brother moved up into the just beyond at the end where the Bennington Museum is.
Sure. Yeah, I've been there.
Right. He lived just behind the Bennington Museum up on the mountain there.
Yeah.
So wow, what a small world. My brother used to deliver water. He used to have the water route. Now look, here we're talking about, like, me and you are the only ones in this conversation, and everybody. Yeah.
You're losing viewers right and left here. Probably.
Yeah, but all right. But that's a small world. Imagine that. Yeah, they live in Bennington. Wow, and he's the manager over there at the Home Depot. I got to tell my brother to go check.
He was. Now he's gotten promoted to some district level job over in New Hampshire.
Oh, okay. God bless. Good for him. Good for him. Good for him. Good for him. Wow, it's nice up there in the New England area. Good for him.
We evacuate Texas in the summertime and try to get out of here for 3 months because it's just hot here in San Antonio during the summer. Even 3 months is not enough. 5 would be better.
Yeah. Mike Lambertino wants to know, do you weather your freight cars and track?
No, I haven't. No, I've watched videos on doing that, painting the track and all that. I've just not gotten to that level, and right now I'm just building models. I did a lot of model airplanes, as a kid. So I enjoyed, reliving my childhood now with HO trains.
That's cool. That's good, Fred.
Models, but I haven't got that detailed. If I can't get it from Woods and Scenics and stick it on the layout, probably not doing it.
That's it. It's not for me. It's not going to happen.
I got about 10 different Woodland Scenics trees and plants, and if I can't just take them out of the package and stick them on the layout, that's not going to happen.
A 1/8 drill bit and zip. Stick the tree in it. I'm good.
Yeah. Dribble some glue and drop some grass.
That's it. There you go.
That's about my limit.
There you go. Well, Fred, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this and being on the show. It really is an honor to have you on. And I'm so glad that you were able to share this with us. And I have to tell you, guys out there, please go and subscribe to Fred E. Model Railroading. It is really fun and enjoyable to watch. And it's just a great YouTube channel. And obviously, Fred, you're really entertaining and really fun. to listen to, and it just really has been really good to have you on. Thank you very much for being a part of this show.
Well, thank you, Bill. Let me take a minute and tell you about the name of my railroad.
Okay.
You saw the picture of how I started, and it's in my garage. So I didn't want to be presumptuous and come up with a real name. I couldn't think of a real model railroad name, to match the crappy plywood I had. So I just thought, okay, Fred E. And if you say it fast, it sounds like Freddie. And that was my nickname as a kid, Freddie.
Freddie, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you gave honor to the wood, to the that simply by naming it Freddie.
Yeah.
That Freddie Railroad. That's
Yeah.
good. That's great. And Sparky says, Johnny, thank you for being at the controls tonight. You're a great man. How much did you pay Sparky to say that, John? You're not saying. Oh, okay.
Probably sent him a few cars for his train set.
Ken Ammer Jr. BNO _51 says, thank you, Big Bill. And to you, Fred, as well. Thank you. And thank you for being on. That's it for us here at Model Railroading Live. Who's Big Bill talking to tonight on January 8th, 2020? Tomorrow night on the 9th, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll have Johnny's Train Talk Show, where, again, you can pull up your chair to the general store, sit down and talk with John and the rest of the guys on Model Railroading. If you have a problem, question, or you just want to bring and brag something that you've done, made, by all means, you can jump in. If you have a webcam or on your laptop computer, you can jump in and be a part of it. And we more than welcome you to be a part of it and share anything that you're working on or any situation or problem related to model railroading. We're not into the family therapy thing, and so we can't handle personal problems because we have our own. And as much as we'd like to, we just can't. Anything that's related to model railroading would be more than interesting to hear. And on the 14th of January, we will have the Build Show with Andy Crawford, where Andy will be sharing his tips and expertise in the building aspect of model railroading. So from Johnny and myself, we want to thank you for being a part of the Who's Big Bill Talking To. You guys take care. God bless, and we'll see you on the radio.